This is being filmed on a broken camera, as in the zoom is broken, but I think my camera's got a bit upset because she's being replaced, as in my new camera is literally arriving today. This camera hasn't been turning on for days and weeks, but she's now turning on. So my camera is now semi-functional. Basically, I have like, what, 2 weeks left of uni, and rather than having like online assessments, we have a piece of work that gets released and then we have 2 weeks to do it. Today, we got released a piece of work for clinical psychology, which we have to write a 1500 to 2000 word essay worth, it's worth like 78% or something. It's worth way too much of our grade, which means I have to do very well in it. And we've got 4 options for a question. We have one on addiction, one on dementia, one on psychosis, and one on depression. Now, I read the 4 questions and I was like, well, the depression one pops off. The depression one is the only one that's good. But the question is it too simple? Will everyone do depression because it's the easiest one? Then we have the addiction one, which is the second easiest one. But will everyone pick that because they've all gone for the idea that the depression one is too easy? So I want to do the depression one because it's easiest, but I'm not going to do it. I'm instead going to look at the other 2 questions, which are psychosis and addiction, and look if there is any good research on them, because basically we've got 2 weeks to do this. It could have easily been released as an 8-hour exam, and I could have done it in 8 hours, but because I've got 2 weeks, I can actually plan it. So I guess I'm going to plan both essays, or research both essays, and by that I mean put them into Google Scholar, see what we find, and then try and come up with an idea, because I don't want to do the depression one. No, I do want to do the depression one, but it's too easy. The dementia one is on a really weird niche part of dementia, and I also don't really care. And I guess I need to figure out how to get, I'd like a 78 in this. Basically, the person who runs this module, I did one of her modules in first year, and I got 78 in my essay, which if you go to psychology, if you don't go to this uni, that's the highest grade you can get. Like, bitches be getting 85s. We're not allowed that. A 78 means your essay is perfect. I want a 78 in this essay. I'll settle for a 72, but I want a 78. So I need to figure out how to do that, but we don't get any feedback on our exams. So like, I don't know what was good about it. Basically, I'm gonna plan those 2 essays. We've got 2 weeks to do it, but we've also got another assessment that gets released in a week that we have a week to do. So the plan is to get this done this week, but also preferably by the end of the weekend. And I guess I'm gonna write an essay. So yeah, basically, these are the questions. Some of them are just a bit long. This one looks quite nice, the addiction one, because it's just evaluate a model of addiction. So I guess I would just pick a model and then obviously evaluate it. And then this is niche, caregiver wellbeing, comprehensive program of dementia. Like, I feel like I could pop off in it if it's that niche, but I don't want to. This one is literally just critically evaluate 2 treatment approaches for depression, which literally is just going to be like, what, psychology and drugs. Too easy. Critically discuss the role of substance misuse in the development of psychosis and how a comprehensive treatment plan might be tailored to account for this in an individual experiencing psychosis. I actually don't like that question. I'm going to plan this one first. If I find enough information to plan an essay based off this, I will do this question because it looks quite easy. I need to go through the lecture slides and basically figure out how much content should be lecture content and how much of it should be extra reading.
Can cover everything from science-based to art. It's so obnoxious that you're kind, that you always have time for family and help out everybody, as if a million things don't occupy your mind.
So I'm looking at some of this addiction stuff and like, it's just not for me. I think I am going to end up doing the depression question because I just don't care. Like, I'm reading it and it makes somewhat sense, but I don't want to mess it up in an essay, whereas I could probably write about depression better. And the depression question, I think, is at least 2 treatment approaches, so maybe I just do 3 treatment approaches? Like, I don't know. It's now 2 o'clock and I'm no longer doing the addiction question because I just don't think I can do it as well as I can do with the depression question. I just feel like I can do it better. So we're now doing depression. I've got some kind of a plan, I've done some kind of reading, but it's not great. This camera that I'm using is temperamental. So I ordered a new camera. My new camera just came. It's literally not the right camera. They sent me the wrong one, so she's now on the bed, gonna get returned, and I've reordered the same camera, but it's £20 more. So yeah, and I can also just guarantee now that I've spent so much money on cameras, this one's gonna stop having problems, because she kept having like system zoom errors and just loads of issues, but doesn't seem to be having them anymore. Like, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I've made a rough plan for this essay. I don't think I'm gonna do any of it today. I think I'll get it done over the weekend because I don't really want to do it. Like, I could treat it like an 8-hour exam, but I've got nothing to do on the weekend. I'm gonna be bored. I might as well do the essay. So I'm probably still out of focus because this is still on the old camera, but basically I have completely changed what I'm doing. I just put deep heat on my arm because it really hurt, and I think this is too hot. Like, I don't know how deep heat's supposed to work, but yeah. So basically what I've got is I was doing the depression question because I was like, oh, that's nice and straightforward, but then obviously everyone will do it because it's so straightforward. So I then had a look at the critically evaluate a psychological model of addiction and discuss the influence on treatment, which I just feel like could pop off better. There's loads of models. There's a cognitive model and a learning theory of like conditioning. I think I'm going to do conditioning because it's easier, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Because I've got an entire week, I am actually going to plan it. So I've done like a good chunk of research, I would say. This is yes. This is the question. I started on the cognitive model and kind of gave up. So I've got learning theory, I've got operant conditioning, and then classical conditioning, treatment based on operant conditioning, treatment based on operant conditioning, treatment based on operant conditioning again? I don't really know anymore. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna keep having a go at that. My arm is literally burning from this deep heat. I just bought it because I was like, oh, it's slay, it will help, but it really fucking burns.
If you could be just a little less perfect, then I could say I don't have time and it's not worth it. But how is a girl to resist you and all the little things you do? Oh, if you can get much better, don't, cause it'll get much harder. Can't blame a girl for trying to take it slow. Oh, how is a girl to resist you and all the little things you do? How can I resist you? It's maddening that you make me smile, even at times when no one else can. When I get overwhelmed and I want the world to fade away just for a while. Over the top that you're so cute, and that if you and David stood there both side by side, I bet that oh Michelangelo would be surely carving you.
It's now Sunday. Yesterday I did some of my essay, and today we'll do some more of it. I did some extra research. Basically what I've done is I've written about 700 words. I need another 700 or 800. I need to do all of treatment. I need to make classical conditioning bigger, but classical conditioning isn't really a thing. And I also need to find citations for all the things that the lecturers have said. Actually, that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to go on, we have a Padlet, and I'm going to be like, can you fucking cite literally anything you've ever said? Because it's not fucking true, and it's ruining my essay. So, yeah, and then I've also, my actual essay document, oh, I'm zooming in. Ooh. On my actual essay document, I've put everything in pink, like for my research that I've already done. I then found more information about, I don't even know what that says, classical conditioning, instrumental conditioning, blah blah blah, and then I need to do all of treatment, which should be big, but then also the question is not entirely about treatment, it's about the model. So I need to find more critical evaluation of the model, but again that's kind of difficult when no one cites anything in their slides. Little tiny baby, little tiny toilet for a little tiny baby.
Saskia, that clinical slaps.
Thank you, Jade. Huh? No, it's clinical. Don't worry. So it's now the end of Sunday, which is day 3, but kind of only really day 2 of actually doing any work. I've got 1,400 words, and basically the minimum word count is 1,500. I have now done most of my information. I feel like I need a conclusion and I need to include a bit more from the slides, because basically if I go into the slides, they also have something about antidepressants, but again, no citations. This, one citation from 1999, but I've done that bit. This, I think I've already mentioned, and this I've mentioned to some extent, but I might mention more about token systems. And then relapse prevention, none of it has been helpful. Like none of this is relevant to anything. So I am going to probably finish my essay tomorrow, but obviously because we've got 2 weeks, I really don't need to. Stop panicking. So it is Wednesday, which means I've had this exam for like, what, 5 days, and I've done not very much. I did do some of it yesterday, but here's the thing. Little Jessie comes over on Tuesdays and we just don't do that much work. We spent a lot of time looking at the Nando's menu and the Harvester's menu and figuring out what sweet corn ribs were, so I did do some work. But I also, the questions I asked on the Padlet about like, cite your fucking work, have just been ignored. I have also got, right, I was looking through exam feedback from previous years on similar questions or just on like the topic of addiction, because she's not asked the same question before. And basically she said, oh, it was a good idea that people mentioned the negative and positive cycles of reinforcement. Number 1, not mentioned in the lectures. Number 2, aren't really like common pieces of literature that come up when you're looking for pieces of literature. Number 3, kind of difficult to explain. Like, I've got it and I have explained it to some extent, but I'm just not sure. We've got this pink paragraph, which basically just explains there is this cycle of negative reinforcement. They've called negative reinforcement that for some fucking reason. And like, it doesn't make much sense, but it also is just the exact same as everything else I've said. However, because it's using concepts from things I've spoken about later on in the essay, I am struggling with where the fuck do I put this in? Like, my current essay is why we care about addiction, what addiction is, behavioural model, classical conditioning treatment, operant conditioning treatment, haven't concluded yet, but then conclusion. This model uses principles from both of them. Where do I put that? Do I like do it right at the end before I do my conclusion and say, oh, taking a biological approach, blah, blah, blah? Do I do it before I introduce learning theory? Do I put sections in? Because it's a 3-stage model, it's like a cycle. It wouldn't make sense for me to just shove sections of it in. It would have to all get explained in one go, but I don't know. I don't know where to put this in an essay. Also, I painted my nails. They're sparkly. I don't really know where to put that in. I've written it as a statement. I have a paragraph on it. There's more I could say, but I'm not gonna lie, these papers were so difficult to read. I need to figure out where to put it. I need to be more critical, the whole critical evaluation thing. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get my notebook and I'm gonna literally write strengths, weaknesses, look through my essay to see if I've mentioned them, because what I've done is like I've subtly mentioned them, because obviously it doesn't read very academically well if you just say a strength of this model is. Like, I don't want to say sentences like that because that's very too. So I need to figure out which strengths and which weaknesses I've said. Have I said them directly? How can I say them nicely? Like, I have an essay. I need a conclusion. I need to move that reinforcement cycle model thing in. I need to be more critical, because the question is, critically evaluate a psychological model of addiction and discuss its influence on treatment. I think I've discussed its influence on treatment. The question is if I discuss too much. I need to critically evaluate this model more. But also, I'm trying to use the NICE guidelines. They haven't been updated since 2007. Because the guidelines in 2007 say, oh, this treatment isn't good because there's no evidence. But that was 15 years ago. There's actually a lot of evidence now. So I'm going to read my essay, do a strengths and weaknesses, see if I've said anything, and then we'll move forwards from there.
Just a little less perfect. Then I could say I don't have time and it's not worth it. But how is a girl to resist you?
So I would say I am almost done with my essay. I have a sentence I don't like, so it's in pink to change it. And I'm trying to reach my conclusion. That document that's called like writing essays that she sent us or something, and she kind of wants the conclusion in a specific way, but my conclusion doesn't fit that method, nor does it look good in that method. Like, this is kind of my conclusion. This is me then trying to do her method of a conclusion. I don't like it. I need to format all my references, which I have a lot of. I need to reread it, but it is currently kind of complete, and it's complete in the time I wanted it complete. It's also 2,045 words, so it's over the word count, but she said we're allowed 10% more, so it's technically under the 10%. So I think I'm going to give up on this for a few days and then come back to it with a clear head.
Little things you do, oh, if you can get much better, don't, 'cause it'll get much harder. Can't blame a girl for trying to take it slow. Oh, how is a girl to resist you and all the little things you do? Can I resist you? Just tell me how and I'll do it. Just tell me how and I'll do it. Just tell me how and I'll do it. I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do everything I can. Just tell me how and I'll do it. Just tell me how and I'll do it.
So this question, which I asked ages ago, has still not been answered. Love that for me.